Hello and welcome to part 3 of Misconceptions about God. Okay, if you haven't watched the other 2 parts, please go and do so you understand what's going on in this third part. And I left off with talking about how when God destroyed something, okay, I'm not just going to go blindly and say, well, he had his reasons you know, and the reasons were he needed to destroy evil, period. And then the unbeliever says, well, what was the evil that he destroyed if there were also innocents involved? Okay? Now, this is where I'm going to try to put my own 2 cents in here and start by saying no one knows all the answers. So I'm not going to act like I do. All right? But my reasoning tells me that there are some things that were out of God's control, not because he couldn't control it, but because he couldn't back out of his own promises. He gave man freedom of choice. Even though it hurts them to do something bad and evil, it ultimately hurts that person's body and soul and brings death to that person. God himself promised that he wouldn't physically or mentally force man to go either way. If man was going to love God, it would be out of his own choice to do so. If he was going to hate God, it was going to be out of his own choice to do so. He didn't want to force it. How many parents want their kids to be forced to love them? Number one, that wouldn't be love, it'd be only fear. Okay? You want your kids to love you because they wholeheartedly 100% love you, not because you forced them to. So God gave us freedom to make our own choices regardless of where the choices would lead us. Okay? Therefore, I have to concur. Ooh, I used a big word. I have to concur, man, that some things were out of God's, control, being that he gave us freedom to choose. So even if there were innocents involved in a lot of the deaths that happen in the Old Testament, and even today, innocent people die every day. It is man's own freedom that kind of locks God out of the equation. Man chose to follow science. Man chose to destroy nature. So now God is supposed to save us from the destruction that nature is bringing when we are the ones who destroyed it in the first place? Nature being God's first creation? That don't make no sense. If your child receives a gift from you and he just all out destroys that gift, okay, selfishly, are you just gonna go run out and buy him another one 100 times over every time he just continuously destroys the gift? No, you're gonna put your foot down. You're gonna say, nah, that's wrong, I'm not buying you another one. You keep destroying them. Therefore, your punishment is to live with it. Same with God. It's simple. Nature destroys people because we destroyed nature. That's the way of the world. Man caused war, created war. War, in turn, destroys man. We have to live with it because we created that. Our species created that. And an unbeliever has no right to call God an evil God or whatnot, because he lets nature take its course. No atheist, no science buff can contest that. And if they do, they're just showing you how real their bias is. Therefore, debunking any, removing any credibility they might have thought they had. Okay? Now, God destroyed the world with a flood. It is said that there was no good left on the planet. There was no good left. Even though there were children that died in these floods. But these children would have grown up to be carriers of the evil that their parents did. And God, at one point, it said in the Bible that he, for a second, regretted creating man and giving them that freedom. Just like I know a lot of parents, I've heard them say this. I've heard a lot of parents say, oh God, I wish I never would have had this child. I wish I would have never got pregnant. My life would have been totally different. I messed up. I made this mistake. So what the heck makes you think that God, the creator of life, doesn't have the right to say the same? Or something similar? There's a strong bias against God, obviously, because we're in the last days and evil is rampant, and Luciferianism, Satanism, is the new norm. And they're telling you to side with logic. They're telling you to side with so-called love, discrediting God. And the number one thing they like to use is that he was a monster because of the things I've been speaking of, because of the destruction that God let happen. And I just explained to you that nature takes its course and he lets it happen. Ultimately, in the end, those children that died, those innocents that died, will come before the Lord in the afterlife and get their credit due or their justice due. Judgment. Okay? So God ain't forgot about anything. Okay? But at the same time, we cannot blame God for nature taking its course when we created the mess we're in. Our species created the mess that we're in. Now, at the same time, I'm discrediting those believers, quote unquote believers, that like to blindly follow everything and say that God did it, so it's just the way it is, and to think otherwise, or to have an opinion, a different opinion, is evil, and go around judging people and go around offering hell to people, telling them everyone's going to hell that doesn't think like me. Look, man, you're the first ones. It says in the word that when judgment day comes, those that did all kinds of great works for the Lord are going to be surprised when God says, depart from me, doers of iniquity, I don't know you. So can you imagine how these so-called believers are going to feel when they've dedicated their whole life to a certain belief system, and in the end, when the curtain falls, the Lord says, I don't know you? Why? Why doesn't God know these people and doesn't want to know these people? Because one, let's again side with reason. One of the major reasons would be that a lot of these so-called believers cause not only natural destruction, physical destruction, but spiritual destruction with their hypocrisy. Because on one hand, they uphold the word in one way, and on the other hand, they totally destroy the works of the word in another way. One of the easiest examples is a believer that will talk about how about holiness and about the great things of the Lord and about his righteousness, but then turn around and judge you and tell you you're going to hell because the person might not understand, has never been explained in the right way by the right person. These things that we're talking about, things that they don't understand, they're misconceptions about God. And in turn, the believer just strengthened that person's stance in disbelief. I don't think that God would take kindly to that, which is why he'll look at them and say, depart from me, I don't know you. It's as simple as that, folks. If we would take the time to side with reason, we could understand the things of God a lot more and a lot better than what any man in this world can teach you. Okay? Maybe you just needed a little nudge in the right direction. Maybe you just needed a little clearing up of some things that you didn't understand and in turn would get angry about and bitter about. And to tell you the truth, the vast majority of people will not believe, won't believe, and in turn will get their due judgment, whatever that may be. Or in turn get their mercy, whatever that may be. I can't tell you. Because I'm not the Lord, I'm not God, I'm not a creator. The only right I have is to mold and direct my children, not the next man, not anyone else on this planet. I can only offer you my love, my understanding, my support, and my opinions. Take that as you will. But I believe some of the worst issues that are happening causing disbelief is created by Christians themselves. Because there is no set fundamental to protect the people from. You know, a lot of these self-appointed ministers are causing this because they're ignorant of the truth. They can only tell you their opinion, just like the days, the men of ancient, the old scribes and Pharisees and so-called high priests. They only had their opinions also. But let's look at the light of all of this, which is Jesus Christ, Yeshua. When he came, he corrected and criticized and all but whooped these guys' butts, okay? Well, not all but whooped, because he actually did when he entered the temple and seen that they were selling, buying, trading. Jesus told it like it was, and he specifically told us that all we had the right to do was love. And that the evil would be corrected by love. No other way can you correct evil but by love, even if you have to die for it. Even if you have to die for it. Love is the only way. And Jesus is love. God is love. Don't let no one tell you different. Don't let no one judge you, but at the same time, don't be a fool and judge God, because it'll turn around and bite you in the butt. Thank you for listening and watching this video. This has been my opinions of why there are misconceptions of God. I'm Joel of Yahweh. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and God bless.